Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The 100. So in this episode, things kind of go from bad to worse as we learn that basically, because Kane kind of made a deal with Tree Crew, that basically like, oh yeah, Ice Nation, they're not getting inside of this bunker. So it's like, okay, to remedy that situation, it's like, okay, kind of have to take them out because you kind of already made that deal. But it's like, Clark already gave her word to Rowan that his people would be welcome with this whole situation. It's like, we'd split, whatever the situation be evenly, but it's like, now, like, because it put Clark in a position where she's like, no, I'm not going to let them do that. Like, you have her mom be like, no, Clark, you need to just let this happen. It's like, but she's like, Rowan is my friend. It's like, even prior to everything that's happened this season, like, even back last season, like, that's why she was so willing to, like, align herself with him this season, is because Rowan helped her back then, because she saw him and realized he's not like everyone else. Like, she probably looks at him and almost sees a potential Lexa who's willing to be a little more open-minded about certain situations. Granted, to be fair, Rowan did kind of screw things over when he went off and just massacred a lot of Tree Crew people. I mean, it's around the time he found out the truth about what's really going on, because everyone's been hiding it from him. But at very least, like, I'm not saying that justifies what he does, but, giving the understanding of it. Which I guess the same thing that could be said about why Abby was so okay with it is because, it's so interesting because last episode, she had the whole mentality of like, Clark was talking to her about like, hey, do whatever it takes. Like, obviously, like, do what needs to be done now and then learn to live with yourself afterwards. But like, obviously, like, there was a whole Maury situation last episode and she backed down from it. It's like, you would think, because she was always the most reluctant to make a decision like that. Like, but with the time, I mean, granted, it wasn't her decision to make, it was Kane's, and he made it because it was like, for one, they have closer ties to Tree Crew than they do Ice Nation, but still, Kane was still in a very sucky situation. But when it was all said, it still sucked because it's not like they wiped them out. Ice Nation, in particular, Echo came and saved Rowan at the right moment. But he showed Clark mercy because he's like, yo, I know you actually tried to come and warn me, because it's like, we're allies in all this. But she wants it all to work out. She wants Tree Crew, Ice Nation, everyone, Sky Crew, everyone to come together and live inside that bunker. It's like, there's literally enough space. But Rowan's like, the fact of the matter is, like, they made this deal behind your back and everything. And it's like, they literally just try to kill me. So there's no way, like, but he does give Clark the benefit of the doubt. He's like, if there's anyone that can make this deal happen, make enemies kind of side together, it's you. And so when the time actually came, Indra's not willing to listen. Understandably, he wiped them all out. If Rowan had not done what he had done, if the things had been kept status quo like they had been, then this would not be happening. But obviously, there's no way anything's going to work perfectly in this whole situation. So Indra's like, nope, screw it. Let's go to battle. Rowan's like, okay, I guess we have no choice. Only way we're going to be able to solve this is with our blades. And so Clark gets inside her head. She's like, you know what? Because she ends up hearing it from Indra, like, because she's like, Lexa would want you guys to get along. This isn't what Lexa would want you guys fighting like this. And he's like, and Indra's like, yes, you're right. The commander would want that, but the commander isn't around. We don't have a commander. And unless a commander is giving those orders, we kind of have free reign to do what we want to. And what we want to do is kill the Ice Nation. So Clark takes it upon herself to kind of reveal, like, obviously she had Luna's blood in her system. Because obviously Luna, we haven't seen her since the last episode, so I'm assuming she's just off like, hey, maybe I don't know. I guess she might already be at, no, I feel like if she was already there, Ice Nation has control of the bunker, so, I don't know. I guess she's just wandering off on her own like that, I guess. That's how I'm taking it. Really, she's keeping her distance from everyone. More so than anything, the proper true heir to the throne would be Luna, but obviously she wants nothing to do with it. She's kind of like, as we saw last episode, she's like, well, just give up hope. The last hope went, when Abby smashed her the machine, not wanting to take the chance that Clark might die. Which, that same thing happens this episode, because Clark's like, you know what? I've got Luna's blood in me, and that means I have a chance to become commander. So she's like, if they're only going to listen to a commander, I'm going to have to become the commander to do this. But Rowan stops her by bringing Abby in and making Abby bring out the fact is that, that, because everyone's like, oh, like, even Indra's like, oh, she's not a Nightblood. It's like, oh, I guess I was wrong. I guess it's a situation where it's like, okay, the blood has revealed itself that, how can we doubt the blood? But bringing in Abby, Rowan's able to prove it's like, hey, the fact of the matter is that this blood will can't be trusted because the fact is that Abby was able to make Clark into a Nightblood having this blood. So it's like it was faked and everything. So it's like, how can you trust the blood anymore? Even though the whole plan was to make everyone like that so that you could survive the radiation. But it's like it's not been tested yet. So Clark's still the only one that still has the Nightblood in there. I mean, we actually think about it, it'd be very messed up if that is the case. That when it's all said and done, the only two people that would possibly survive this is Luna and Clark. It's actually kind of interesting when you think about it like that, if the blood actually works. But nevertheless, for Rowan, I was wondering, like, why would you do that? You know what Clark's trying to do, but at the same time, it's like, the fact of the matter is, in his position that he's in right now, he can't trust anyone else. I mean, also after what Sky Crew tried to do, it's like he can't trust, their decision anyway. Yes, he knows he can trust Clark, but the fact of the matter is, who's to say how long that'll last? Obviously, he has to do what's right for his people, much like she has to as well. So it's like, if she becomes the next commander, who's to say she won't obviously side with Sky Crew and stuff going forward, and that just puts a target on his back and everything. But now they've turned it into a situation where it's like, hey, when it's all said and done, we're going to, like, obviously it's a battle, like how most commander situations are solved by a battle. This time it's kind of like a battle royale. Rather than a full-blown war, each clan will pick one of its warriors, and this warrior will fight to the death with the others. And like, I love, like, the way Bellamy and Clark were talking about later on. It's like, it's a full-on battle. Like, there's no time limit. The entire area is a battle zone, so it's like an all or nothing battle. The winner walks away with everything. Their clan gets the bunker, no one else does. To me, like, really quickly, I was actually kind of shocked. Like, obviously we have Octavia returning, and obviously I'll kind of talk about her side of the story, but it's like, it's interesting when it comes to Octavia, because immediately they were like, oh yeah, choosing your finest warrior. I was like, who would Tree Crew choose? And I'm like, maybe Indra, but I was like, maybe it'll be Octavia. Maybe Octavia would decide to, as we see in this episode, she returns to being the Sky Ripper. But the fact of the matter is that she would choose Tree Crew. I don't, like, the same thing is, it's hard to say what side she's actually going to choose. Like, I caught glimpses of the preview, but luckily I missed bits of it, so I wasn't able to tell, like, exactly where her allegiance lie. So it's like, either it's going to be with Tree Crew or it's going to be with Sky Crew. It's hard to tell in that particular situation. I think Sky Crew is going to be who she chooses in the end. I don't know, like, because, I mean, if that's the case, if she's not fighting for them, I think the person that's going to be fighting for Tree Crew might end up being Indra, or plot twist could be, it might end up being Ilian, because we ended up finding out in this episode, because obviously some other people were coming to recruit him, and like, hey, like, we're being called to take down Ice Nation, and it's like, yeah, Ilian's actually a warrior, but he's like, why fight? The world is literally ending, the way Clark puts it, literally 6 days from now. So it's like, the world is coming to an end, so why bother trying to fight a war? It's pointless. And basically it's having this whole conversation with, like, because obviously the entire time he's been trying to change Octavia, kind of letting go of her Sky Ripper days. Obviously that last one when those people came back and they confronted her, she's like, I don't want to do this, but they pushed her, and she ended up turning back into the Sky Ripper. Not only did she take them down, she brutally took them down, and she ended up telling Ilian, as like, this is who I am. Basically, like, saying, like, no matter what she does, no matter how much she tries to, like, fill that hole in her heart, like, who she's become is who she is. There's no changing that. So, I don't like to think that. I mean, it seemed like last episode, she was really making some good progress in becoming the person, like, becoming the girl that she once was before, but it's like, I don't think it's easy to let go. Because we ended up having, there's a conversation she had with Ilian where it seems like basically Ilian's people believe in reincarnation, that death is only the beginning. And I guess maybe thinking about that just kind of brought up the whole Lincoln thing up again. So, and now it's just kind of like, I guess seeing herself like that, realizing like no matter how much she wants to change, the fact that she's Sky Ripper now and forever. At least that's how she sees it. So maybe she's just giving up on change. So I'm very interested to see next episode which side she does decide to take on. Like, will she work with Sky Crew? Will she work with Tree Crew? I mean, because if she doesn't work with Sky Crew, like, who do they have as a fighter? No one's been trained in the arts of fighting like that, especially because they can't use guns or anything like that. The only weapons, obviously, like, grounder weapons are the only things left to them, so. You know what's kind of interesting? That's kind of a term that's no longer used. That was kind of the big term back in Season 1. I think Season 2 as well, but obviously, you know, they spent more time and got to know the grounders and stuff like that. So I guess in a sense, like, grounders is actually a very derogatory term. So I guess that's why, I mean, recognizing who they are. Even I don't really know all of the clans, but obviously amongst Tree Crew, there's different clans within the Tree Crew. Just like I'm sure there's many different people within Ice. nation and stuff like that. So it's definitely going to get very interesting well, with these new developments next episode, because I get the feeling like either it's going to be against Ilian or it might be against him as well, but it definitely is going to be her versus Indra, and it's like Indra's her mentor and stuff like that, and even though she's a Sky Ripper, and the fact that she's willing to kill anyone that's in her way, will she be able to kill Indra? The fact of the matter is, to save her people, maybe Indra's willing to kill Octavia, even if Octavia, because Octavia's like a daughter to her, but even then, it's like, if it means saving her actual daughter Gaia as well as the rest of her people of Tree Crew and making sure that Ice Nation dies, then she might be willing to make that sacrifice. I mean, I'm very interested to see where that goes next episode. But another big part of this episode is about back in Arcadia. The fact of the matter is, people wanting to stay. Jasper and them, they don't want to go to the bunker. They're content with like, hey, we're giving up. In particular, one person that kind of shocks you is the fact that it's Harper, and Monty does not take that easily, because it's like, here comes another person that I care about giving up. He's like, I know what you're bothered by. The fact is, you're bothered by that guy that you weren't able to save, the guy that, you didn't go back to save him, which is like, that doesn't mean it was the wrong decision. That was just your survival instinct. That means you wanted to live. And it's like, for the first time, I think I will say, like, you weren't a coward, then you were just you were just surviving. But now, I can honestly say, this is the first time I'd say that you've ever been a coward, which is obviously very harsh for him. But it's like, he's already had to deal with this with the whole Jasper situation, but now he has her unwilling to, like, leave. The fact of the matter is that she's just content with giving up, because she's just tired of all the fighting. Because, I mean, the fighting just keeps going on. It's like, even when they find something that seems like it might be a sure thing, it might be a safe thing, it just leads to them always things falling apart eventually anyway. So obviously, Jaha is not happy about this, because for Jaha, he's like, got the mentality like, no, basically saying like, there's no like staying behind in this situation. Everyone's journey to the bunker is mandatory. It's like, it's meant to be the survival of the human race. But obviously, Jasper and the others are not willing to let that go. Like, they're like, hey, let us stay here and die. This is our choice. But Jaha's like, he's not willing to let that go. But, Bellamy ends up talking to him. He's like, understand where they're coming from. You literally sent them, himself included, down here to die. Like, you sent the 100 down here to die. And like, now they're actually given a choice now. Before, them coming to Earth wasn't their choice. It's like, yeah, you're kind of the scum of the Ark. Basically, you're all in trouble, so you're kind of expendable. So, hey, here you go. But now it's like their choice whether they want to live or die. It's kind of like they've earned that right after everything they've been through ever since they've came to Earth. So it's like, give them that right. This is their choice to make, not yours. This is their lives. Which obviously, I think he ends up starting thinking about Wells, because it's like his own son, if his son was in this situation, would he have his son didn't have a choice coming to Earth and he ended up dying. So it's like, at the very least, he should give, the others that choice. So he kind of backs on and is like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's their choice. Which Monty's still like, are you crazy? He's even telling Bellamy, like, what are you doing? Bellamy, what would you do without Octavia in there? He's like, I'd take this time to actually tell her goodbye. Because, after spending time with Jasper, like I said, it adds a different perspective. Like, because I'm one of those biggest advocates of being like Jasper's got this whole mentality. Like I said, I've always been flip-floppy on it. I've always been super pissed about him having that mentality, like, you're giving up. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, and it's something that I think Bellamy's kind of realized too, is like, hey, that's not the path I decide. I'm not willing to quit. But the fact of the matter is, Jasper, that's what you want to do. I'm not going to stop you, because at the end of the day, it is your life. Like, you can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped. If they don't want to be helped, then that's all you can do. All you can do is keep fighting for the people that do want to help. Like, obviously, that's your friend, and you care about them, and you want them to survive. But at the end of the day, it is their lives. It is their choice. And who are you to interfere with how they decide to live their lives, especially, like, their last remaining days? They want to be on the top of the surface, living free and everything. So, obviously, he ends up saying his goodbye to Harper and Jasper, and he's like, hope till we meet again. And he's like, yeah, we won't. He's like, or whatever, do whatever you want, and just kind of say their goodbyes. So, because once again, it is at the end of the day their choice. And so Monty, at first not being all for it, decides to stay. He ends up staying with Jasper, and because it's like, hey, he's got to, obviously he loves Harper, and obviously he loves Jasper. That's his brother. So it's like, if they're not going, then obviously he's not going either. So I still kind of get the feeling like out of anyone, Harper most likely is the one that's most likely on the fence because it still seemed like she's not okay, especially when she finds out that Monty's staying. Like I think maybe there's a part of her that seemed like it was happy that Monty's there with her, that at least like she doesn't have like obviously she's not alone in this whole situation, but like obviously you want the person you care about most by your side through it all. So I don't know. I get the feeling that it might not come to that. We'll have to see because obviously this war is coming up, and so obviously they're going to want to be kept by themselves. But what are they going to do in the meantime? Because like obviously, like I said, like it's a full scale like battle royale, and they've kind of got free reign in this free for all battle. So very curious to find out who will be the victor in all this situation. But like also, what does that mean for Jasper and them? Like obviously they might get caught up in the middle of this because I feel like they won't be able to stay neutral in this whole situation. And especially with so much riding on the line. And it's kind of interesting that storyline about Jasper and them because that kind of correlates to. I mean, really quickly, I find it so interesting that so many people decided to do that with Jasper. It's like, I guess they've lived their lives. They've been a part of this world. Obviously, they've gone through so much. They've lost a lot. So it's kind of like, hey, go out with a bang. But what the point I was about to get to is like the fact is that correlates with Raven's side of the story. Obviously, Raven's condition is getting worse because the fact is that she's seeing Rebecca. But it's even though she's not really using her brain because it's to the point that no matter, even if she doesn't use her brain anymore, like if she's not like focusing or whatever, like it's already spread so much that it's already killing her that there's no going back. And so Becca's telling her, it's like, hey, you have two choices. Like you're going to die either way, so you're either going to, be down there in the bunker, live out the rest of your life with these people, but they basically would have to be taking care of you because slowly you'd be dying and you wouldn't even be able to even feed yourself at that point, which is like super sad to even think about. But at the same time, she's like, or Becca's like, or you could go out into shoot yourself off into space and kind of spacewalk, kind of get all of in zero gravity and stuff like that when she was having her seizure and originally, was seeing that. The fact is that make this a one-way trip where it's like, hey, you get to decide how you go out, and why not give yourself a beautiful view, kind of go out on top of just kind of like it's like that, for one last time. So kind of go out on our own terms. So it's like very similar to Jasper and them story, where you even have like, and it's like I said, like even though they've always had the biggest problems with each other, the fact is Murphy's that like there, he's like, you don't want me to tell anybody, like you want me to tell the others. Like the fact of the matter is, it's like you don't have to do this. Like what you get, but once again, she's like, it doesn't matter. I'm dying anyway. There's no saving me. So Murphy's kind of sad about that. I mean, because him and Maury were kind of content with like, hey, I guess we're just going to be stuck here because they didn't realize that they were like, yeah, the others aren't coming back for us. But then it's like Jackson and Nate came back, which they were off doing. The moment he was like, oh yeah, like you could go ahead, and Nate, Jackson was like, or I could stay here. And they were looking at each other like, well, Nathan's single right now, so I guess it's okay. I mean, it's not considered cheating, at least I don't think so. But that's why it took them so long to get back. And then Maury and Murphy kind of had a belief that they were coming back anyway. It's like more so than anything. It's like, yeah, they might, because Raven and Joe, like, yeah, they might not be coming back for, someone like Murphy, but they'll be coming back for me because I'm important and everything. So kind of catching them both off guard. But the fact of the matter is, Murphy is walking away, and obviously he's hearing, and looking at Raven talking to, well, obviously in her head it's Rebecca, but obviously outside she's just talking to herself. So you see that look in his eye because he wants to do more. He wants to help her and everything, which is like, because there's that, I don't know, man. It's sad that, it's like, you see him like, even being who he is, Murphy is always, I've said it before, always had moments throughout the show where it's just like he has stood up and, tried to do the right thing. So will he completely leave Raven to her own devices? And obviously, maybe, I mean, I'm hopeful, but maybe this situation isn't as dire as it seems like it might be, because maybe Raven is actually, subconsciously, her brain is actually helping her without her realizing it. Her brain is like, oh, you think you're just doing this, basically to give yourself a good death or whatever. It's like, no, actually you're helping yourself out without even realizing it. Which I was kind of thinking maybe that's actually kind of a side story where it's like when it's all said and done, this whole like Commander tournament situation doesn't end well. Basically, maybe the acid rain comes back. Maybe it's a situation that when it's all said and done, Clark isn't willing to do that. So it's like, if not everyone is able to get in the bunker, no one I know something's going to happen with that bunker, and I'm not exactly sure what. I'm very interested to see where that'll go. I mean, overall, just a fantastic episode. I'm very interested to just see how this all, where is this all heading? Because I feel like the whole Raven situation is still like going to be the last hope for like, hey, we need to test this Nightblood situation and find out whether it works or not. Get the message back here, basically find out whether it really works or not. And then once it does, we can just pass it around to everyone and inject them, which will kind of defeat the purpose of everyone being like, oh yeah, ever worrying about a commander situation, because at that point it's like everyone else is a Nightblood too, so it's no longer an issue. Just kind of, once again, Rowan kind of brought it up, and this episode is kind of like correlating with what he brought up in the past. Like, when it's all said and done, even if you manage to save everyone, there's still the problems between the different clans. So, at the end of the day, I'm very interested to see how Clark's going to find her way out of this situation. Can she even do that? That's the big question. So, we will just have to wait and see. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.